Michael Saylor has been buying thousands of Bitcoin per day, and yesterday on stage at the biggest Bitcoin conference in the world, he told us what the long-awaited supply shock will look like in 2026. And if Michael Saylor's even directionally correct, I don't think anybody is prepared for the rally we're going to see towards the year end of 2026. We have a ton of news coming out of the conference that I will break down for you today. But before we get to that, let's start with the first Michael Saylor clip. Here we go.
Just curious in terms of what your thoughts are. What's next? What should we be excited about closing out this year of 2026?
Well, I think Bitcoin's going to rally. I think there's a lot of capital flowing into Bitcoin right now, and at the rate that digital credit is forming, and at the rate you saw our buy this morning, we bought the entire supply last week. Then Strive announced a massive buy. Then there's a massive bank credit coming online. All the big banks, JP Morgan, Citi, Schwab, Morgan Stanley, Barclays, they're all coming online. So I think the formation of, you're talking about between 20 and 100 billion dollars worth of credit formation in the next 12 months. And there's only $10 billion of Bitcoin naturally available for sale. So I think that we're setting up a massive supply shock. There ought to be a rally in BTC. I think that'll catalyze a rally in all the Bitcoin treasury companies. I think it will cause a rally in demand for digital credit. I think there'll be a rally in bank credit. I think the Clarity Act will go through, and there'll be a lot of very constructive guidance from the CFTC, Treasury, and the SEC. I think that will accelerate digital assets innovation.
Guys, I obviously, you know me, I guess don't have the best memory, but if I'm not mistaken, this feels like the first time Saylor said supply shock, or at the very least, he's only said it a couple of times. And I know a lot of us Bitcoiners have been saying this, but I think this is why this clip hit so hard, because it's not just me and our boy Luke saying supply shock every week. It's Saylor with his vantage point, which is one of the things I've been telling you guys in regards to the amount of capital going into Stretch, or the amount of capital that Saylor is being able to attract with his new Bitcoin products. Now, one of the interesting numbers in there that I actually had to think about a little bit is what he said about there's only 10 billion of natural supply of Bitcoin. And at first I was thinking maybe he's talking about the Bitcoin on exchanges, but I think what he's talking about is what he mentioned in the beginning of the clip, that they're buying up all the the Bitcoin left to mine supply, which would roughly be around 12 billion a year, at least at current prices. So I think what he's saying is, hey, look, myself with Stretch, with the amount of interest going into Stretch, we're buying up literally all of the newly mined supply of Bitcoin. And that doesn't even account for everything else that we're seeing. Obviously, I covered it for you guys yesterday. Strive announced he called it significant buy. Maybe in comparison to what we saw from Saylor, it didn't feel that significant. But again, there's multiple players, multiple factors playing out right now that wanted to acquire a lot of Bitcoin. And that doesn't even account for what we're seeing from the institutional interest, which, as Saylor laid out, seems to be accelerating. So all of this is playing out with almost like little to no, how do I say it, like attention coming into Bitcoin right now. The majority of people are still sleeping on Bitcoin. I will be covering later on in the show what levels people are probably watching right now, at least from an institutional perspective, what we're all kind of watching to wrap our heads around whether we are making it out of a bear market, whether we're at the end of a bear market, where do we currently stand right now. But as you can hear, Saylor is extremely bullish. Now, obviously, you guys joke all the time. We are simply Saylor here at this show because he's been the biggest proponent for Bitcoin for the last couple of years. And in, I think, a further clip, or maybe actually it was in the beginning of this clip, and I cut it out. He basically said that in the last 12 months, or the last 6 months, I believe it was, he's seen more innovation than in the first 5 years that he's been in Bitcoin. As you can see, there's a lot of factors accelerating right now that are making everyone feel extremely bullish. Obviously, we've had a lot of really good news stories. We have a generally positive administration around Bitcoin, and I will cover some of the stuff, that we heard out of the Bitcoin conference, which were a little more contentious. But we are starting to see that everything is kind of building in our direction right now. And if we continue to see the amount of interest going into Stretch, like I've been covering, they've been able to acquire about $1 billion a week, and I will update that for you guys in a minute. Things are heating up, and I saw you guys in the beginning of the show saying something on the lines of, I've been hearing about the supply shock forever. I think we've all been hearing about it. And maybe in true Bitcoiner fashion, we've all been a little bit early on whether this is happening now. I did see some people say, like, it's not going to happen this cycle, it's going to happen next cycle. But it does feel as if the institutional interest coming into Bitcoin, the institutional products, the amount of, I don't want to say regulatory clarity, but the amount of factors playing into the Bitcoin bull run that is probably ahead of us in 2027. It does seem as though we are all probably a little bearish on what we think the next cycle is. A lot of people have this impression. I think I was covering it yesterday, or maybe it was the end of the last week. We all have this impression that since Bitcoin is a $1.5 trillion asset, the higher it goes, the harder it is for it to go even higher. But that's if you really account for a steady influx of capital coming into Bitcoin. What we're seeing is that the influx of capital is accelerating. It is going higher because of what Saylor did. Now, obviously, Saylor himself isn't going to be the sole person to drive the Bitcoin price up. But once it starts turning around, once people start feeling a little comfortable, whether it's the macro landscape, whether it's the price of Bitcoin going up and people start to FOMO into it, all of these factors are really going to magnify and crash into a hard cap limited supply. Again, thinking about that $10 billion number, he said anywhere between $20 and $100 billion of capital is going to be fighting for about $10 billion of Bitcoin. So a 2 to 10x influx of capital fighting for the daily mine supply of Bitcoin. Obviously, there is this contention or this idea of 2.5 million Bitcoin on exchanges. How do we really factor this in? Because a lot of people will just bring more Bitcoin when they want to sell. And there's even a kind of concern about that 2.5 million. Is it really off the exchange? Are they factoring in the strategy holdings? Can we really trust that Coinbase isn't rehypothecating, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? But what we are seeing is that we as an industry, as a phenomenon, have grown way bigger than we ever have in every other cycle. And maybe we are waiting for a fabled supply shock. But again, I don't think I've ever heard Saylor say supply shock in any clip, soundbite, interview. You guys can correct me, and I could be wrong on this, but I think this is the first time he's said this. Maybe he's been listening to a little bit of Samson Mao here, but this does seem to be a hot take because we've all been saying supply shock. I've seen you guys yell at me in the chat being like, oh, here we go, supply shock. Is the supply shock in the room with us? Not yet, but it seems like all the factors are leading into the fabled, the mythical supply shock actually playing out in 2026. So it's going to be interesting to see this happen. Now, there is another clip that I want to add here, and it is the same speech, but it's Saylor talking about the, quote, digital credit. Now, obviously, we are hardcore self-custody maxis, but it does seem like the digital credit, quote-unquote, meme is catching on. It does seem like there is a real interest in digital credit, which is being led by Saylor and the Stretch or STRC product. And that does seem to be bringing in a whole new audience or a whole new demand from a totally different market that Bitcoin wasn't able to attract. So this clip, just in addition to what he just said, is really playing out to the idea that maybe the supply shock is starting to enter the room. Let's watch this clip.
So I don't think there's any question digital credit's going to work. There's $3.5 trillion in private credit right now, and that $3.5 trillion is getting 8.5%, 9% yields. It's totally illiquid, and if even 1 or 2% of it flows into digital credit, this will be an explosion. I don't know why you wouldn't have 10% of it, $370 billion, just coming out of private credit flowing into digital credit. It's all illiquid, opaque, under-collateralized, unrated stuff. So digital credit, if it got even 1 or 2% of the junk bond market, the private credit market, you know, or other sorts of exotic credit, it would be exploding. In fact, if you look right now at STRC is the largest preferred equity in the world, and it is the most liquid preferred equity in the world, and the fastest growing, maybe one of the fastest growing, you know, financial products in the world, all in the first 8 months. And that's without any of this happening. So I think that the digital credit train has left the station. Stretch is working. Even today, SATA, you know, is like, what, $99.99, hitting par right now. So you can see that asset class is working. Both those instruments are working right now. I think that all of the uncertainty is really just opportunity.
Yeah, I love that ending. All the uncertainty is really just opportunity. You love to hear it. Okay, guys, to put this in the context, because he didn't actually put the numbers, but from my understanding and from my memory here, the credit market's about like, what, $300 trillion. So 1 to 2%, about what, $3 to $6 trillion of demand coming into Bitcoin. If my math is correct, that's a multiple of, you know, 2 to 3 times the Bitcoin market cap. The only reason I'm bringing these numbers up, because as Saylor said, and as we've been watching, it does seem like the digital credit idea has left the station. It does seem like there's an incredible demand going into digital credit. Now, obviously, from our perspective, we're always like, just buy spot Bitcoin. But again, from the credit market participant perspective, either they don't want to buy spot Bitcoin, or further, they're not even allowed to buy spot Bitcoin. And now they have something that they can get into with incredible upside. Again, what we've been talking about, or rather what I've been talking about, and I've been trying to put this into context, or rather into a framing model that obviously makes you extremely bullish. That's my job here. Full disclosure, I am a Bitcoin propagandist. I am I'm a biased Bitcoiner. I think this is going to explode. But as you see, the numbers aren't even that crazy. Just a little bit of capital finding its way into Bitcoin, and obviously relative little bit of capital, it would be huge. Bitcoin's market cap's at $1.5 trillion right now. If $3 trillion found its way into digital credit, STRC, or the, what is it, Strata, the Strive product, or I think it's Strata. This is an incredible demand coming into Bitcoin, something that we've never seen before. And I think this is why Saylor is finally going into the supply shock meme. He's finally saying what look, he's basically saying Bitcoin, simply Bitcoin headlines here. Bitcoin's going to explode. You guys yell at me all the time for the titles. He's saying it now. He's starting to get bullish. Remember last week, he basically said that he believes that the crypto winter is over. And I think this is because we've seen, I literally said that on Friday, that I think the reason he's saying that is because of the amount of demand that he's seeing going into this, quote, digital credit product that he's created, and further that other people have followed along. And that really leans into the idea that I've been saying. It's not that much, or sorry, it's not too crazy to think that the diminishing returns meme could fundamentally break here in the next year or so. I know everyone is still locked in on the 4-year cycle. Diminishing returns, bigger number means it's harder to get bigger number, and we got to attract a lot more capital. But it seems like the quote digital credit idea is the very thing that is going to attract a lot of capital. Now, to give you an update, because I have been doing this lately, here is the current numbers. Oh, wow. It literally jumped 25 million since I started the show. That's crazy. Okay, so you saw yesterday, I think yesterday when I brought this up on the show, it was around 80 million. It finally ended at 200 million yesterday. When I got this website up this morning, it was 70 million, and now it's at 94 million. So in about an hour, obviously it doesn't mean that in an hour it's attracted 25 million. They probably just updated this. But you can see how crazy this is. There's still a lot of time left. So if he gets another $200 million day, I think they're going to have another $1 billion week into stretch. And if this happens, this is where we are starting to see the trend of exactly what Saylor just said. The digital credit has left the station. This is the hottest product right now. It's performing incredibly. It's getting a lot of attention because it's attracting so much capital. And as Saylor likes to say, that is that flywheel where you attract more interest, you create more demand, they buy more Bitcoin, and this just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. If Saylor is capable of doing another $1 billion week, and I really had my doubts yesterday when I was looking at the numbers. I'm like, oh, he's gonna, it slowed down a little bit. But here you can see last week, 1.2 billion. I'm guessing today they're probably going to attract another 100 million. So it might end up at 200 million, 5 times 2. I think they might have $1 billion week again. That's 4 weeks in a row. I think it is becoming very clear that what Saylor is saying is backed by much more than just me shilling hopium on the show. He's seeing stuff behind the scenes that is really making him be, or rather making him go out there and say at the Bitcoin conference, obviously he needs some sound bites. Like, I'll give that to you. He needs some sound bites. But he's going out there now and saying supply shock, rally into the end of 2026. He's already put his head on the chopping block and said the crypto winter is over. Though, again, I do have another little update from Andre for Bitwise, kind of talking about where we currently stand in the market. We're not out of the woods yet. And further, we did see that the Bitcoin conference dump, the classic Bitcoin conference dump every single year, it did go a little lower. From the high of yesterday, we're about 5% down. Obviously, it's not crazy. It's a dump for ants. I wouldn't really be concerned about it. It's not something to really panic, but it's playing out exactly as we all knew it was going to happen, which is just always hilarious to me that the biggest event in Bitcoin, the Bitcoin conference, the price always dumps. But anyway, Saylor's out here. First day of the conference. I think what the numbers were is about 8,000 people that were in attendance yesterday. I think today is going to be a little more. He's out there saying, look, this year is going to blow everyone's socks off. I think we're all going to look back and be a little mad that we weren't as bullish as we say we are, that we weren't stacking as hard as we like to say we do in the chat all the time. But all these factors are playing out, which we've been covering on this show for a long time. And I know a lot of us, me included, and you guys in the chat, are not the happiest of, or not the happiest about the institutional interest in Bitcoin. I have been saying that it seems like the biggest attack on Bitcoin is not, what node you're running. It's that Wall Street wants your Bitcoin. They are delivering products to incentivize you to give up custody of your Bitcoin. So what are you going to do? You're going to accumulate more Bitcoin and make sure you take that into self-custody. Because if you're giving up your Bitcoin right now and we're on the verge of an incredible rally, who knows what happens and who knows who's going to blow up? You probably won't know until we see some kind of drawdown again, but I would not risk it. If what we think is going to happen and Bitcoin's going to have an incredible rally, 2026, end of 2026, 2027, 2028, like the 4-year cycle kind of basically says, the safest and best place for you to have your Bitcoin is under your control. Not your keys, not your cheese. We all know the memes. We can't forget our fundamentals here. But I'm going to side with Saylor on this one. I, too, also believe that we are probably seeing a supply shock building out right now in real time. I said it a couple of times. It feels like the foundational steps are being built out right now. And it is kind of like the Matrix meme, like not like this. You guys know that one where they unplug her and she's like crying, not like this. It isn't happening exactly as maybe the cypherpunk perspective thought it would, but it's happening exactly as it was always going to happen, which is literally the theme of today's show. This is like the theme of today's show is Bitcoin is for enemies. Yes, there is literal, ABC men at the conference speaking to us, trying to persuade us that they are on our side. And I will break some of this stuff down later on in the show. But we are seeing that, look, it's almost a repeat of what we saw in November of 2024. And this is really where I start to probably become cynical fields here, is because it is a lot of rhetoric and we have yet to see that much action. Though we did get like an announcement of an announcement, and I didn't bring it up on today's show, but we did get an announcement by, I believe it was Tom Willis, or Tom Wills. He said that we will get a very big strategic Bitcoin reserve announcement soon in a few weeks. So he's literally doing an announcement of an announcement on stage. But I'm not playing that clip for you guys. But it does seem like maybe they are starting to realize that they need to get some action. Like they need to do something concrete here, especially if the midterms are about to heat up, especially now that it seems as if the Clarity Act, it's still in limbo. Now it's been pushed back. Shouts out to Senator Lummis. I saw her blurb yesterday, a little soundbite. Now they're saying mid-May. Mid-May is when the Clarity Act is going to happen. I did see some people say that by June it's going to happen. Keeps getting delayed, right? But I think they're starting to realize, like, okay, it's time. Everyone's got this feeling that it is time now for some action to happen. And if we do see the action, then maybe in hindsight, we'll look at the rhetoric that we're hearing today and we won't be so cynical about it. I will be a little cynical about it on today's show. I'm not going to lie. But hey, how about in the chat? Do you believe in the supply shock? I want to believe in the supply shock. Is it ever going to happen? Are we going to see this start to play out right now? It really feels like with the amount of education, reports, analysis from the institutions, with the recommendations of anywhere between 1 to 20% of their clients' portfolios should be in Bitcoin, with the supposed Clarity Act going through and whether that's going to be beneficial or not, the unlock of capital could be very, very swift. And we could see an increased demand that we've never seen before. That's obviously the bull case. That's what I've been saying for a long time in regards to the only thing I was bullish about the institutions coming was that they were supposed to pump our bags, and yet it seems like they've been shorting us and they've been making money on basically making us all poor again. So we'll see. We'll see. But Saylor starting to get a little more bullish than we've seen him in the last couple of weeks. Crypto winter is over. Supply shock coming soon. Stretch is the best product ever. And Bitcoin's going to rise, and all of this is going to be a nice little story that we tell people in the past. So it's like, remember when we were buying Bitcoin at 70K and we were all mad, we were all disillusioned because we had the first Bitcoin president, quote, Bitcoin president, and nothing happened, and we went sideways for a year. And then the end of 2026 and 2025, we saw an incredible bull run, the likes we've never seen before. I'm here for it. I'm really going to agree with a couple of my friends when they say that the 2021 and the 2025 bull runs weren't real bull runs. And now we will see an incredible bull run. Hopefully, it'll bring us back to the glory days of like 2017. It's what we all want. That's what we're all here for. We're like junkies waiting for the price to do what it did in the past. What it did, 10 years ago? What a long ride. And yet, we're still obsessed with Bitcoin. We're still buying Bitcoin, accumulating Bitcoin, taking into self-custody, doing the Bitcoin first principles because we know the game. And, you know, shouts out to Simon Dixon. He's been very strong on this message that if you don't like these people coming to Bitcoin, if you don't like the people speaking at the Bitcoin conference, then literally the only move you can do is acquire more Bitcoin and take that Bitcoin into self-custody. I know it sounds almost naively easy, but that is the game here. While they try to financialize Bitcoin, you just buy spot Bitcoin and take it into self-custody. Or, you know, like a lot of the stuff Jack Dorsey was talking about yesterday, you just use Bitcoin as money. You work for Bitcoin and you store it in cold storage. Anyways, I rambled enough. on the supply shock. I know I'm not checking at the chat, but someone does not want Saylor to be the richest man. Yeah, I agree with that. Supply shock is already here. 1 Bitcoin is expensive for plebs already. Honestly, I was saying that this morning, and side tangent, I will keep the show going, but I literally said the same thing this morning to Luke. I was like, dude, you know, it really does feel like us Bitcoiners right now, and maybe this is why a lot of people are tuning out of Bitcoin, why they're not as obsessed with Bitcoin, why they don't think it's still the exit that we think it is because we literally got in the door like right before it closed. We got in at like 11:30, right before the clock strikes midnight. And now we're just kind of waiting, and everyone else is outside the door, and they're like, I don't even know if I want to buy this. Why would I buy this if the institutions are going to control it? It's centralized. It's, you know, what are all the things they've been saying? It's been captured. It's not the freedom tool we thought it was. You know, the government's embracing it. I thought this was for freedom and separation of money and state. But yeah, it does sort of feel like the price has gotten to a point, or you might believe in the Veblen good idea that the higher the price, the more people want it. But it does feel like a lot of people have been priced out, and now they're looking at Bitcoin and they're wondering whether they should get in. But we'll see once the price starts ripping if we get another FOMO round like we've seen before. It's not closed. People's ego is keeping them from buying. Yeah, that's it's an optimistic take. Optimistic take. It's simple, but absolutely true. Yeah, agreed, guys. It's really this simple, but people want to complicate things. Anyways, let's keep the show moving again. We got an interesting clip from U.S. Senator Nick Begich. And he's reintroducing a bill, but it's not really so much about the bill that I find most interesting. It's about not only the rebrand of the bill. Did it knock me off? No, I think I'm good. But he is starting to emphasize, and we are seeing this a little bit, the re-emphasis of self-custody and the importance of self-custody and how it's truly an American value. And then in the news, I'm going to be covering probably the most contentious talk that we saw yesterday, which was Attorney General Todd Blanche and, of course, FBI Director Kash Patel. There's an interesting clip coming out of it. A lot of people were celebrating it. And then then there's some probably less favorable coverage that I want to highlight. And then to wrap up the show, I'm going to continue the coverage of where are we currently in the cycle considering on-chain metrics. So that's today's show. I'll be right back after this commercial break.
Today's episode is brought to you by Bitcoin Well Infinite. If you're a serious Bitcoin buyer, you've probably hit the same wall. Most platforms make you give up custody just to play by the rules. Bitcoin Well Infinite fixes that. They're North America's only publicly traded non-custodial OTC desk listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, which means transparent operations and zero counterparty risk.
You buy Bitcoin, you take immediate control, period. For trades over $50,000, you get a dedicated executive Bitcoin advisor, competitive spread starting at 1%, and immediate delivery straight to your own wallet. No custody risk, no withdrawal fees, just institutional grade execution with full asset control. If you want to buy Bitcoin the right way, book a free consultation at bitcoinwell.com/OTC or email infinite@bitcoinwell.com.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, StampSeed. Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Are your seed phrases really secure? StampSeed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you'll need for you to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them down on paper. Paper is fragile. Titanium plates are strong. Your words are actually stamped into the titanium plate with this hammer and these letter stamping tools. Once the words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamp seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. And now you can customize your titanium seed plates. You can upload your design or logo, and they will laser engrave it on the back of your seed plate, the opposite side of where the words are. Stamp your seed on StampSeed and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the stampseed.com store.
Oh, you guys are cracking me up in the chat. I hopefully I'm back. I did notice that I got kicked off for a second, low bandwidth, but it should be back. At least it looks like it's back to me. So anyways, I do the show every single day, guys, and there's still issues, and it's not me, okay? It's not me. We're whatever. You guys don't care. You guys don't care about me, but it's not my fault. All right. Anyways, the current Bitcoin price is $76,040. I repeat, 76040, which is a discount of 39.7% from all-time high. We have definitely, at least up to this point, secured that $1.5 trillion market cap. And the current block height, TikTok next block, 947 and 48. I repeat, 947048. Okay. So, as this is not a wig, guys, okay? This is not a wig. Enough about my hair, guys. You're making me self-conscious. Anyways, there's a clip of, this was actually, if you guys were watching yesterday's show, after the first break, I was like, oh, we got a breaking news story coming out, but obviously I couldn't package it. I couldn't get it uploaded for you guys. But this is what I was talking about. It was this clip here of U.S. Congressman Nick Begich. He's reintroducing his bill, but he's going hard on the protection of self-custodying your Bitcoin, which personally, from a hardcore Bitcoin perspective, I'm like, Yeah, I know Nico says all the time, we need to, what's he always say, codify the protection of self-custody. I'm like, bro, I don't need to ask your permission to do what I can do already. That just seems ass backwards to me, okay? But I do find it interesting that we are hearing U.S. congressmen. Obviously, he's been orange-pilled. He's been talking with the Bitcoin community for a long time now at this point. And it's just interesting to hear U.S. congressmen. And again, this could be rhetoric. It could be hot air. Obviously, I think they know who they're talking to, and they want us to support them. So that I keep that in mind. But it's still interesting to me to hear, politicians say stuff sort of what we've been saying. I've said on the show a lot of times, Bitcoin is as American as apple pie. And then everyone's like, well, isn't apple pie French? I'm like, yeah, whatever. You know the meme. I think Bitcoin is truly exporting the American ideals to the rest of the world. And maybe that's just because an American and you guys are like this silly American. Look at it. Look how he sounds. He thinks America is the greatest and, the Constitution's so good. Yeah, whatever. I'm an American, okay? We have our politicians saying this, while on the other side of the pond, what are your politicians saying? We want to have CBDCs. You can't save your money. Look, I'll take this over that any single day of the week. So let's watch the clip.
And we talked about individuals self-custodying, their corporations self-custodying, governments potentially self-custodying. Can you maybe hit on some of those latter points? Should exchanges and corporations, should they be self-custodying? Is it easier to just give it to a qualified custodian? Where do you kind of land on that point?
Well, I'll tell you, history can be quite instructive when looking at the importance of self-custody. If you go back to 1933, and you had an executive order from the president at that time to confiscate privately held gold. And it was effective. It was effective because gold at that time was viewed as the money supply. The government was short of money supply, wanted to increase its money supply, and went out, acquired, my view, illegally, these gold assets from individuals, and then revalued and devalued the dollar a year later. And it really impacted people who had been savers of actual money, of hard money at that time. And I think when we fast forward to today, we need to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And I think it's in the best interest, actually, of exchanges to support self-custody, because it's a lot harder for a government under pressure to confiscate millions or maybe tens of millions of privately held wallets than it is to go to one of a few dozen places and confiscate a critical asset like Bitcoin. So I think it's important. I think it's good for the ecosystem. I think it's good for everybody to make sure that we have laws that enshrine the ability to self-custody. And if you don't mind, I did bring from my bill, the Bitcoin Act, which I carry with Senator Lummis in the House, the language as it relates to self-custody. Affirmation of rights. This act affirms and protects the rights of persons to maintain full lawful control over the Bitcoin and other digital assets of those individuals, recognizing that the ability to maintain self-custody of private keys is fundamental to the principles of financial sovereignty, privacy, and personal liberty in the digital age.
Hey, guys, come on. Is that not some good rhetoric? Look, I'll be a little cynical. Is that not some good rhetoric there? Man, you got to love that. I mean, a sitting U.S. congressman talking about Executive Order 6102, 1933, when we confiscated the gold from asset holders, basically saying, hey, it's a lot harder for the government to take millions of people self-custodying their Bitcoin than if it's all the Bitcoin is basically legally forced to stay on the exchanges. Like, this is the stuff that we want to be said. Like, this is the stuff we want more people to hear. Say what you want about him being a politician. But have we not said the same thing on this show multiple times? That's some signal right there, okay? Obviously, again, he's at the Bitcoin conference. He wants to get his bill pushed through. At this point, a lot of the Bitcoin bills that we've seen are usually DOA. But you got to love to hear that. I don't know about you guys, but you know what I was thinking during that clip? It was, dang, I'm blanking on that cartoon, the puppet movie. It's just like America. Fuck yeah. Like, let's go. That's what I was thinking throughout the whole clip. Yeah, are you not entertained? Like, for reals, guys. That was some good stuff, okay? That is the type of rhetoric that I want to hear politicians saying. Imagine if everyone, all the congressmen, were as orange-pilled and based as this guy, U.S. Congressman Nick Begich. We'd be in a totally different world. And that does lead to a kind of a broader conversation that I brought up on the show multiple times, where I know a lot of us Bitcoiners don't like politics. We've been, how do I put it, pushed out of politics. You know, people ask me all the time, like, you know, what side of the aisle are you? What, you know, who do you support? And I steal the line from Eric Kasem, like, I'm politically homeless. I see some things maybe from both sides that are like, okay, I understand it, but none of it really encapsulates what I believe as a Bitcoiner. But hearing someone like this say what I believe as a Bitcoiner, it's hard for me to not fall for, again, being a little cynical here, for the propaganda. You got to love it, man. Like, this is the stuff you want to see politicians all around the world saying. This is good stuff here, okay? I'm cynical AF. Yeah, me too, bro. I know politicians lie. I know politicians say what they want the audience to hear. Obviously, I know all that. I'm as cynical and sarcastic as anyone else. But man, that was some good stuff, okay? It was projection. You probably, man. It was still good, okay? I guess you have no clue then. Okay. All right. I get it. You guys don't like politics. I have a very real distrust for politicians myself. Yeah. Wig party. Guys, this is my real hair, okay? This is my natural hair, okay? I have some luscious locks, all right? All right, enough of my hair. All right. Now we're going to get into the real meat of the conference yesterday. This was probably the most anticipated speech, at least from a social media perspective. Actually, this was probably the most contentious speech that happened yesterday. And I do have a soundbite for it. I will, break down what he said, and I will give you kind of the, the real full breakdown of what was said yesterday by Attorney General Todd Blanche in regards to the speech titled, Code is Speech, I think it was. I think that was the title of this conversation. And everyone was freaking out heading into this. Like, how do you have the Attorney General and the FBI Director talking at the Bitcoin conference, and their keynote is titled Code is Speech, when we have open source developers in jail for this very thing? Actually, it probably wasn't the most popular speech, because I saw some, I didn't pull them up for you guys, but I did see some more behind the scenes, and the audience was like completely empty. So Bitcoiners obviously didn't really care, but this was the most contentious conversation that was had yesterday. So let's get into it.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, Ledin. Here's something most Bitcoin holders never figure out until it's too late. You're sitting on wealth you can't touch without selling. Ledin fixes that. Bitcoin-backed loans. You keep your stack, you get cash. And they just introduced their lowest rates ever. No complexity, no fine print. The larger the loan, the lower the rate. These new rates apply to all new loans, refinances, and renewals. You'll see all the rates up front before you apply. The new, lower rates come with Ledden's gold standard protection. Your Bitcoin remains custodied and is never lent out for interest. Perfect 8-year track record of keeping clients' assets safe. Auto top-ups, LTV alerts, and partial repayments to keep you in control. Repay whenever you want with zero penalties or monthly payments. Ledden's perfect $10 billion track record through every market cycle in the last 8 years speaks for itself. Don't choose between a great rate and the safety of your Bitcoin. Get both at Ledden. I'm going to give a shout out to our partner, BitKey. If you already self-custody your Bitcoin, you already know the deal with hardware wallets by now. Complex setups, clumsy interfaces, and a seed phrase that can be lost, stolen, or forgotten. BitKey fixes that. BitKey is a multi-sig hardware wallet built by the team behind Square and Cash App. It packs a cryptographic recovery system and built-in inheritance feature into an intuitive, easy-to-use wallet with no seed phrase to sweat over. It's simple, secure, self-custody without the stress. Time named BitKey one of the best inventions of 2024. Get 20% off at bitkey.world. That's bitkey.world with the code SIMPLY.
Okay, guys. So yeah, Johnny, go. We have a booth over there, man. Or actually, I'll update you on where I think Nico is right now. But anyways, as I was saying, probably the most contentious speech yesterday was the keynote by the U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche and the FBI Director Kash Patel. And there was an interesting soundbite coming out of this, and it does seem bullish on the surface. It did seem like a good soundbite. Now, obviously, maybe it's because us Bitcoiners are very cynical, untrustworthy. We're not untrustworthy. We don't trust the politicians. A lot of people just thought of this as hot air, that they're just saying what they want us to believe or what they want us to hear, and they're not actually going to do what they said in this clip. But let me just play the clip for you guys, and then we'll have a little back and forth in the chat as I, kind of give you my initial reaction to it, and then from what I saw, a lot of people kind of breaking down in detail what was said. So here is Attorney General Todd Blanche in regards to the clip that was going around of they will no longer prosecute Bitcoin developers.
And with the FBI as well. The basic principle is that if you are developing software, if you are a coder, if you are part of that process, and you are not the third-party user, and you are not helping and knowing the third party is using what you developed to commit crimes, you are not going to be investigated and not going to be charged. And obviously facts matter, because if you're laundering money or violating sanctions, the mere fact that you happen to be a coder doesn't excuse you from criminal liability. So there's a distinction there, and that's why the facts of a particular case are very important. But I really need coders to understand, I really need the industry to understand that we have fundamentally changed the game when it comes to our investigations. And if you're a coder out there and you're listening to me speak, and you are under investigation, or you have to hire a lawyer to respond to subpoenas, your lawyer should feel very comfortable communicating with the FBI, communicating with the prosecutor on the case, and making sure that they are not violating my memo. Because if they are, that can be elevated all the way to me, but certainly elevated within the department, because we are not doing that anymore. And I know that there's some lingering cases that are very fact specific and very procedurally complicated, and I'm not saying that as an excuse. It's a fact. It's the way it is. But those cases are something that we're continuing to deal with. But let me make myself crystal clear that I want to put my money where my mouth is, and I expect Director Patel does as well. And when we say that we're not conducting those type of prosecutions anymore, we mean it. And I want to make sure that is felt throughout the industry.
Okay. So chat, I don't know. What do we do? One, if you believe him. Two, if you don't, and then we'll talk about it. But as you can see from the beginning of the clip, the main contention is this idea of you can create open source software. You can create the software and you won't be legally liable for anything people do on that if you don't know. Obviously, I'm butchering that, but that's basically what he said. As long as you are not aware of what is going on and you're not actively pushing for money laundering, criminal activity, avoiding sanctions, then you will not get prosecuted. Again, rewind it. You can hear him, but that's, I guess, my layman terms of saying what he said. And then further, he did say that they're no longer going to be prosecuting such cases, but there are some lingering cases, which, as you guys know, we all know basically what those are. It's the Roman Storm Tornado Cash case, and of course, the Samurai Wallet devs. And these are the big precedents that we've been covering for a long time here on the show. And I did see a couple of updates here. First one I want to cover is by Eleanor Terrett. Of course, you guys know I'm a huge fan of her work. She's been doing extremely good work covering Bitcoin or crypto in America and the Washington, D.C. politicians' view on Bitcoin and how this is all interacting. She's been very good coverage on the Clarity Act. Now, she dropped this tweet yesterday. So Eleanor goes, new, I asked Roman Storm's defense team if the Attorney General, Todd Blanche's comments at the Bitcoin conference today gave them any hope. Storm's lawyer, Kerry Curtis Axel, said no. Quote, DOJ cannot credibly claim it has, quote, changed the game while still persecuting Roman Storm. The precedent SDNY is trying to set is wholly at odds with Blanche's memo and the president's policy. Axel also pushed back on Blanche's claim that cases can be elevated all the way to the top. More on that to come. So this is from one of the big cases that he basically talked about, saying some lingering cases. And this is what the official response, well, I wouldn't say official response, but what a response from one of the lawyers said. So they're not taking this as bullish as maybe a lot of people on Twitter were saying. If you saw this circulating, a lot of people were saying, oh, Samurai Wallet devs are going to be free now because of what he said. I'm still a tad bit skeptical here. And going further, there is, you know, maybe a less faithful reading of this, because he did basically said, like, you won't be arrested for coding Bitcoin privacy tech as long as you don't use it yourself. As long as not only you don't use it yourself, but as long as you know that a third party user isn't using it in criminal activities. And this is where I think the big contention happened on Twitter. It is, shouts out to Low Elites from the Rage. I will, she does get a little spicy here. I will read this with a PG reading here. And Lola goes, have you been celebrating Todd Blanche's comments on developer protections from yesterday's Bitcoin conference panel? Congratulations, you are regarded. What Blanche really announced yesterday that the DOJ continues to seek and intentionally create the legal circumstances to continue to prosecute non-custodial developers. How? By making a single important distinction. Knowingly transmitting illegal funds will continue to be a crime in the U.S., whether you have custody of funds or not. This means that anyone sending a non-custodial developer an email, message, or XDM on knowledge of illicit use could send you to prison for decades to come. Worse, even Googling a hack could be used to construe criminal liability. How do we know this? Because this is exactly what they are doing in the Roman Storm case. Non-custodial developers transmit funds, and thereby knowing of the transmission of illicit proceeds creates criminal liability for sanctions evasions, for money laundering, and for money transmissions laws, carrying a total of up to 45 years in prison. If I were developing non-custodial software in the US, I would get out as fast as I can. If I wasn't in the US, I would make sure to not make my software available to US users and ensure to not do anything at all to give these politicians jurisdiction. The US is not a safe place for Bitcoin. So that's the Rage's read on this. And first of all, I am a huge fan of Lola Leets. I usually do defer to a lot of the things she says because she reads the stuff. And she does have a very hyper focus on the protections of not only privacy, but of open source developers. So I think this read is probably what was said if you're being a little more cynical on what that soundbite was saying. Obviously, a lot of people are trying to take this as a win. And I would love for it to be an actual win. If we do see here, I mean, he did say, I want to put my, my money where my mouth is. So maybe it's not going to be a lot of hot air. Maybe this isn't just them trying to appease the crowd, though I know that that is the cynical view here. But as we've seen, I mean, he very clearly basically said, as long as you don't knowingly know that your software is being used criminally, you won't be liable. So there's still this push for Bitcoin to be the crypto capital world. And there's a lot of headlines on this idea that we are, in fact, the Bitcoin capital of the world. And honestly, I want to believe it. But as we've covered on this show, when we saw the privacy wars really come in tough, I think that is when NICO started crashing out. That's when he got a little more cynical. I think I've been pretty cynical in the whole political process since the jump. So I would like to believe that this is as bullish as everyone's making it out to be. I do like to have opposing ideas here. This is why I usually give you a bullish take, and then I'll give you the cynical take so that we can, I would argue, have a more balanced, nuanced take of what is being said instead of just always completely bullish about it. But let me see. Is there... Let me see. Did you guys throw any ones in there? 2, 1.5, cap, 2, 1.5. Dan B, that is the big contention. Mixers that don't hold funds at any time are protected. That is basically what the Roman Storm Tornado Cash case and the Samurai Wallet devs, that was the big contention. And as we saw, it really didn't mean much because they basically made the case that they got some emails, they got some DMs, and some of their marketing was basically saying, hey, come use our product, even if you're doing stuff that skirts the line here. That's what made them liable. And that's why that clip is so, I would say, interesting and maybe contentious, because there is a little bit of gray area here of what it means to know that people are using your software for criminal activities. Pardon those that have been, then I'll vote 1. Yes. So the US should end the dollar because they're aware that is used for. Honestly, that's such a Bitcoin take. Yeah, easy. Don't communicate with users. Yeah, maybe be anonymous. Actually, I forgot to bring this one up. Let me bring up Giacomo's response to this, and we'll have one more editor. Oh, is my Twitter acting up? Is Twitter down for you guys? Oh, dude, it is down. Am I cooked? Oh, here we go. Okay, we're back. No, dude, did I save it? All right, Twitter's not working for me. Wow. Dude, what an L. Okay, let me see. Did I save this? Did I put it in my notes? Dude, Twitter's not working. Oh, did I get banned? Yo. Wow. Am I banned? Dude, am I cooked? Guys, Did I just get banned? What is going on? I didn't even post anything this morning. Yo. Okay, let me okay, we're back. Dude, I just thought I got banned live. What's going on here? All right, here we go. I found it. Here's Giacomo's take. You know, hardcore Bitcoiner. And he goes, quote, if you are a coder working on privacy and freedom tech and you're not sure if we are sending armed goons to hurt and kidnap you for your code, please reach out to us. Tell us who and where you are so that we'll make sure clarifying whether we are. Stay anonymous, guys. Use disposable NIMs. If you have to fall for an obvious trap, at least wait for a less embarrassingly obvious one. Oh, gotta love it. Gotta love it. Okay. What's going on here? Let me see. Okay. Okay, it's down for everyone too. Okay, that was interesting. Okay, so let's damn, my Twitter's down now. Well, we'll shoot the shit to wrap up today's show. So, last commercial break, I'll be right back cuz my Twitter's down, guys. It's kind of nuked.
I want to give a shout out to our partner, HIVE Digital Technologies. Fueled by clean energy, HIVE has quadrupled its global Bitcoin mining footprint and channels that same scale into high performance compute, where their AI cloud is now ranked #1 in the world for network performance. At HIVE, you've got dual engines, Bitcoin and AI humming, roaring, accelerating in unison. They're lean and mean, they're green and clean, and they're rewriting the playbook on sustainable digital infrastructure. You can catch the latest buzz at Hive Digital Tech or at hivedigitaltech.com. I want to give a shout out to our partner, Sat123.com. Sovereignty isn't just about your money, it's about your communications too. When the grid goes down, most people go dark. Cell towers fail, and hurricanes, cyber attacks, and blackouts. But satellite phones, they don't rely on local infrastructure. Iridium has 77 satellites in orbit, giving you a direct line anywhere in the US, even offshore. If you hold your own Bitcoin keys, you should hold your own comms too. Sat123.com also has everything you need to start building your Bitcoin citadel. Starlink, battery backups, Faraday bags to protect your hardware wallets, and much, much more. It's a one-stop shop for anyone serious about resilience and off-grid independence. Stay connected, stay independent, stay sovereign. Go to sat123.com/simply today and use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off anything on the store.
Yeah, hold on. The Rumble chat. Who is this? Mind of Elijah. X goes down. Show ends. Lol. Getting banned on Twitter is a rite of passage. No, well, I'm not banned. I'm a good shit poster. Okay, I don't say anything crazy. All right. Anyways, someone was asking. I forgive me. I forget who it was a minute ago. They're gonna meet Nico. Well, check out Nico. Apparently, he's racing some cars right now. Here I am in the dungeon sweating. I'm doing work here, and Nico gets to go race freaking supercars. Guys, it's not even fair anymore. No, I'm trolling. It's all good. But yeah, Nico will be at the conference. We do have a booth, bro. So there's a booth. I don't know where it is. Obviously I'm not there, but there's a booth there. We got the signs, go there. I know we have some of our team there. Unfortunately, I'm not there. So, gonna miss out on me, but Nico should be back. I'm sure he'll be back at the conference later on today. I don't know when he's doing his keynote stuff. I think he had one yesterday. I don't know if he has any more appearances today, but he'll be around. They're around. So, go check them out. Anyways, let me see. Is my Twitter working? Yeah. Okay. This is kind of what I want to talk about because I was covering this yesterday and I really love Andres coverage here. Obviously, he works at Bitwise. He's got the data to back it up. But this is kind of what we're seeing right now. This is the general sentiment, I think, from people that aren't biased. And by the biased, I mean that we're going to be seeing a prolonged bear market until October or, Q3 of this year. Everyone's kind of watching the 80 to 81K range right here. And I know you guys don't really like the OptETA. I know actually some of you guys do. Some of you guys do like it. But I think this is just to give us a framework for where we currently are right now. And it's really going back to the idea of, should you be smash buying right now? Should you be waiting for a dip? I think right now you probably wait for the Bitcoin conference dip to finally end, and then maybe we'll get a little more price action to the upside. But here is the breakdown. The real question for everyone, of course, isn't whether Bitcoin is going to return into a new bull market. It's at what price point does that psychology flip? I don't think anyone here, at least if you've been around for a while, has any doubt that we're going to go into another bull market. We've been around long enough. We know how this plays out. Bitcoin's not going to zero. A bull market's coming back. It's not if, it's just when. When are we going to see that psychological shift? When are we going to see the FOMO start to come back, the price start to get a little frothy? And here's probably the best breakdown, at least. Maybe this is the best breakdown to me because it's confirming my bias. And you guys know I only trust the science when it confirms my bias. So right now, the market is staring at a massive confluence of cost bases between 80 and 81K. Our latest data shows that the true market mean, the short-term holder cost basis, and the U.S. spot ETF cost basis are all clustering at this exact level of 80 to 81K. This isn't just a random number. It is the demarcation line. This 81K level is a significant technical indicator in our on-chain models, as it could represent the shift from a period of aggregate market stress to one of broad-based profitability. Until we reclaim this level, we remain in a late-stage bear phase defined by seller exhaustion, which is what we were covering the other day. And here, let me zoom in here on this chart. Bitcoin momentum levels, Bitcoin price, true market mean. I'm colorblind, so I can't really tell which line's which, guys. Sorry. But 80K. Oh, here we go. 80K line. That's what we're all watching here, guys. Okay. Which is what I've been saying. And now I have the data, the on-chain metrics, and the cost basis for what did he say again? Cost basis for the ETFs and the short-term holder and the true market mean 80K to 81K. Obviously, we got the classic every year Bitcoin conference dump. It's roughly down 5%. Let's see. Are we dumping more? We've been dumping more every time I do a show now. We are currently at 76.1. It's not that bad. So the real number that we're probably all watching is at 80 to 81K, which is to say another way, if we break through the 81K, I think it's pretty safe to say that we're not going to be in a bear market until October. I mean, who knows? Maybe there's one more dip in us. Maybe we got one more chance to get some cheap sats before the game starts to have some fun. Oh, you guys are funny. Let's see. He's schmoozing. Opti equals Nico's agent. No, dude, Nico's my handler, bro. You got it mixed up. I did get rugged. You always have Matchbox Opti. Yeah, dude. I get Hot Wheels, bro. Daddy-O, thank you for the super chat to $5 since you got left behind. Appreciate it, man. Misfit, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I don't know about that. I will say that we do have a lot of fun here. You know what? I was actually thinking about this. You know why I think you guys really enjoy the Opti show, the Simply Opti shows? And this is not to pat myself on the back, because I've really been thinking about this. Is if you've ever met me in person, I'm literally the same guy that I am on the show. Obviously, I probably have to tone it down a little bit on the live show, but this is me. Like I tell you exactly what I think. Obviously, I got to tone it down a little bit, but I think part of what has connected you guys with me on the show is there is a sense of authenticity here. Like this is me. If you talk to me in person, I'm the same way on and off the show. Again, I'm probably a little more extreme off the show because it's like, hey, we're in person. There's no cameras. You know, we can have a little fun here. We're in IRL. You know, life's let's have a little fun. But I appreciate it, Misfit Droid. I really do appreciate it. Let's see, episode. I don't get this. Episode 1492, talking about a supply shock that will usher in a new world. I don't know, man. It's 1492. Oh, wait. Are you talking about the year 1492? Hey, let's go. Yo, you're funny. Anyways, guys, I do have to give you one update here on the show. I told you guys yesterday, tomorrow might be a little weird. Again, they are redoing the roof here on the studio. There hasn't been that much noise. I'm really hoping that the noise that I am hearing isn't picked up on the mic. But tomorrow, I might have to stream from my apartment. I'm still unsure if it's going to be a little too chaotic in here. The first 2 days have seemed pretty chill. So tomorrow, it might not be the fancy studio. I might have to do the first stream since we got the studio from just the home apartment. I will be bringing some of the gear home tonight. I will come into the studio tomorrow. So I'm going to attempt to make sure that I'm streaming from the studio tomorrow. But if for whatever reason it's a little too loud in here or there might be fumes in here, if I don't, if I could actually stream from here tomorrow, I will. We are going to have a show tomorrow. Obviously, this is the second day of the Bitcoin conference. I will give you all the highlights that I find to be the biggest signal coming out of the conference, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. But I'm going to need you guys to be a little lenient on me because I might not be able to stream from the studio tomorrow. I might have to stream from my apartment, and it's not as nice as this. I don't have a setup for streaming in my apartment because I come here to stream every single day. Okay, so I got a head jiggle. Yeah. So, anyways, off the eye from the fumes would be. I said the same thing, and then Sophie's like, "Yeah, I don't know if they're going to be those type of fumes, bro. It might be the type that's going to kill you." So I don't know. I'm going to come into the studio tomorrow. We're going to have a show. I just might have to stream from my apartment because it might be a little too chaotic here. So that's the only update. Maybe I'll be able to stream tomorrow. I'm just saying might be a little different tomorrow, but I am so expect a later show. Maybe stream from the bar. Yeah, that'd be lit. All right. Anyways, I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Same thing. We're going to give you the biggest highlights coming from the Bitcoin conference so you guys don't have to watch the whole 9 hours if you don't want to. And if there's any other breaking news, I'm not just going to cover stuff from the conference if there's some other big news, but it seems like all the big news is coming out of the conference. So we'll be getting all the sound bites. We'll be getting the news stories. But it might not be in the studio tomorrow. That's all I'm saying. All right. On that note, guys, I appreciate you guys. I love you. Thank you for all the support. Honestly, it means the world to us. It means the world to me. And you already know the deal. Make sure you get a workout in. You eat some good food. Get some sun on your eyes in the morning. Call your loved ones. Touch some grass. But most importantly, make sure you are buying some Bitcoin. Because if you're leaving sats on the table right now, Wall Street's picking them up. If you don't like what you're seeing with the institutionalization of Bitcoin, then you need to be stacking sats and taking it into self-custody. On that note, boys, stream at the barbershop. Hey, my apartment isn't that messy right now, okay? All right, later, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day. This has been SB Live. I should stream at our normal time tomorrow, 12:40. And actually, I do want to say one last thing before I sign off. I know you guys yell at me about putting the show up at 12:16 every morning. But I don't just put up the stream and then I sit around for 30 minutes waiting. I'm literally working up until I go live, making sure I got everything for you guys, got the research, got my, my rants percolating in my head. So I should be live tomorrow at 12:40, but if not, I'm just, I'm working up to the buzzer beater. All right, guys. Peace out.
Today's episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, a Bitcoin-only platform on a mission to enable financial independence.